Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to QUT for our conference on Remaking the Maker Movement. This event is convened by myself. I'm Professor Matthew Rimmer. I'm Professor of Intellectual Property and Innovation Law at the now new QUT Faculty of Business and Law. This event is part of an ARC grant looking at intellectual property and 3D printing. Great to put on this event. At the beginning of this year, I was a little bit nervous with the snap COVID lockdown in Queensland, but it's wonderful that we are able to have a physical event with a range of different speakers today, and that is also going to be supplemented by a range of videos from international speakers and some interstate speakers as well. We have kind of promulgated the QT management rules around COVID as well. Our first session is going to look at university makerspaces and is going to focus upon the role of makerspaces in promoting education, training, entrepreneurship and innovation. And we're delighted to have as our keynote speaker Professor Rowena Barrett, who's the Executive Director of QUT Entrepreneurship. And she is going to discuss drivers for entrepreneurship and creativity at university. Rowena.
All this clapping online. Thank you very much, Matthew. I appreciate the invitation to come and share a little of what we do with QUT Entrepreneurship and, more importantly, why we do it, why this is relevant to the concept of making. So today is all about making and the maker movement. So I'm here because I believe that creativity, making and entrepreneurship all just go hand in hand. And I'm not alone. So at QUT, we have a priority in our blueprint. There are 7 priorities in the blueprint that focus on things that the university wants to achieve. And creativity and entrepreneurship is one of those priorities which sits across everything that we do at QUT. So it means that we're committed to supporting staff and students to develop their creativity, to provide the places for them to be creative, and for them to identify those creative opportunities that can be turned into value for others through entrepreneurial action. So creativity, as we know, can be expressed through making, whether it's a physical thing or a virtual artifact. And so entrepreneurship is about solving problems, pursuing opportunities, and making is at the centre of that because you are making a solution. You are making a solution to something that you're seeing. So we also know that there's a cultural resurgence in making. What did we all do at the beginning of the pandemic? Locked in our houses, what did we do? We got out things to keep us occupied, whether it was cooking, whether it was DIY, whether it was crafts. And I've got some of my things here as well that I make. So it's things to keep you busy. But you could monetize it. I don't think people are going to pay money for what I do. But if you'd like one, you can make a donation to the Learning Potential Fund. But it's all about how do you put your knowledge and skills together to create something which can then lead to that entrepreneurial action. So making has become a lot easier as well in recent times. And that's, thanks to the ability to find things online. You want to make anything, there will be a pattern, a YouTube, a whatever, online. You can find those instructions. There's a whole platform called Instructables. But it's also about the lowering cost of tools, and particularly digital fabrication tools that make it easier to make, to create, to build things. But it's not all about occupying ourselves at home and craft. Who in the room has heard about Oz Vader? Anyone come across Ozvader? So early in the pandemic, here in Brisbane, the Ozvader ventilator was designed specifically to tap into a problem that was emerging. And that problem was the lack of ventilators. So ventilators were being snapped up and they were really quite expensive. So Ozvader utilised readily available materials, industrial parts, and manufacturing systems that were quite abundant here in Queensland. But they went outside the normal supply chain. And in fact, the ventilator that they created was a partnership between engineers, the Brisbane-based manufacturing company Olitech, which usually produces parts for the mining industry. There were intensive care specialists, and QUT's medical engineering research facility was part of the project. So they built a ventilator using parts that came out of a quite different supply chain. So it was that for industrial components and rubber and electrical components that usually went into robotic engineering in the mining industry. And they built a ventilator, which is TGA approved for ICU as well as other critical care and emergency care situations. They build it here in Brisbane, they sell it around the world. So it was a partnership of a range of different people. And the inspiration for that partnership and that piece of making there was the project founder, Tony Sprague, saying to one of his mates, "What can we do? Is there something we can do?" And so that question of what if we can do something is often at the genesis of making and then entrepreneurship. So at QUT, we take the definition of entrepreneurship as a pursuit of opportunity beyond resources currently controlled. So that is all about finding and putting things together, virtual things, physical things, innate qualities, skills, capabilities that we have. So we see that as a mindset to be developed, as well as a range of skills that can be brought together to find solutions to problems or help people realise opportunities. And I've had questions from colleagues around the university who said, why are we teaching our students how to become capitalists and make lots of money? It's like, have a look at that definition. It doesn't say anything about entrepreneurship as being the pursuit of unicorns or profit-based organisations, about making lots of money. It's the pursuit of opportunity. An opportunity could be a social problem that you wish to solve. An opportunity could be something within someone else's organisation. It could be a profit orientation that you want to take. But there are many ways in which you can pursue that opportunity. And so there's a bit of a split across universities as to how they pursue entrepreneurship, because there's many universities who do this. And there are those who are like us at QUT, and we work very closely with colleagues at MIT, at the Martin Trust Centre for MIT Entrepreneurship. And our focus is on the individual. It's on the individual and their learning, because we're in a university and that's what we do. Others take that opportunity and focus on ventures. So their KPI in a university might be the number of ventures graduated from the university, the amount of funding raised, the amount of jobs created, but it's about the venture. And that's a path where you're a bit more like an incubator. A university acts as an incubator and an accelerator of ideas. Like I say, we're on the other side. We look at the individual, and like my colleague at MIT, we take that, we bastardise that quote from the Chinese philosopher about feeding a person. So you can either give a fish to feed you for a day, or you can teach someone to fish and they can feed themselves for life. And we're certainly on that side of helping people feed themselves for life. So QUT Entrepreneurship is all about empowering individuals to bring ideas to life and do that through developing entrepreneurial mindset, through programs, events, and mentoring. The outcome could be a venture, but it doesn't have to be. So we're concerned, as I say, about the learning that goes in there. But we work hand in hand with other parts of the university. Clearly, the education that students get while they're here is incredibly important. We see a lot of students from who are studying IT, studying business, studying creative industries, who are interested in developing their entrepreneurial potential. We're seeing increasing numbers of law students as well. Many of our education students go on to become entrepreneurs when they perhaps realise teaching isn't for them, and I'm one of those. But there are many students who engage. We don't get into the commercialisation space. That's what our Office of Industry Engagement does. They will work with staff around commercialising research. We'll work with staff about understanding entrepreneurship, but we'll hand them on when it gets a lot more technical. So, as I say, we have programs, events, and mentoring, and we operate a couple of places where students can come, student, staff, alumni can come and engage, find resources easily and engage in the practice of entrepreneurship. So the Foundry is a space, it's actually two spaces, one at Gardens Point and one at Kelvin Grove. It's the spaces for people to meet, collaborate and collectively thrive. So they are co-working spaces, but they are more than that. Co-working suggests you just go there, sit down and head down working on stuff. It's the places where we hold events, we have mentors, we have entrepreneurs in residence, we have an adventurer in residence. So she's slightly different. And it's a place to essentially hang out and find the resources that you need, where we harness that intangible yet essential ingredient in any startup ecosystem, which is collective knowledge. And a university is a place where it's unlike any other place where you have such diversity of knowledge in one place. Often when we go to work, we'll sit beside someone who knows pretty much the same sorts of things that we know. That's the way many organisations are organised. A university is nothing like that. You know, you are surrounded by difference and diversity, different ideas, different studies, different experiences of life as the student population is so diverse. So there is no other situation where you will find such a diversity together. And it's that ideal opportunity to pursue new ideas. So QUT Entrepreneurship has existed for 2 years. This is our 3rd year of operation. And we have a range of activities that we engage in. So we focus on the community, and our community is not just QUT, it's whoever wishes to join. We have a platform called Orbit that anyone can use. They can go in and find the resources that they need. Every week we run a session called Lunch and Learn. So Thursday lunchtimes, we're online and we have a speaker and a conversation for an hour. Once a fortnight, we run community coffees. They're back on campus this year, but they're on both campuses at the same time. And then once a month, we run a pitch night. So our first pitch night for the year is tonight. So it's online. So that's about building the community, and it does some of the things that people need: resources, information, connections, and a way of practicing. But then we also build skill. So you can sort of run across Spark, Fuel, Ignite. They take you through different stages of entrepreneurial venturing. We wrapped that up late last year into one program, an intensive program called T-6, and it went from idea to launch. And then we are launching a new program this year called Launched. It's an invitation-only one. It's quite intensive, hand in hand, if you like, with a lot of mentoring for people to have that accountability in their venturing. So that's what we do to build their entrepreneurial practice. And we sort of assume that they've got some making underneath that in whatever they want to pursue, whether it's making software, making hardware, making craft, making whatever it might be. To sort of amplify that a little bit, we're part of the MIT Make Impact Consortium. So this is led by Professor Marty Culpepper at MIT. He's Professor of Engineering. His formal job title is MIT's Maker Czar, as in C-Z-A-R, Czar. And the aim of the Make Impact Consortium is to bring, technology, innovation, making and entrepreneurship together in universities. And while we like to think that, all universities are really good at making and connecting these things, not even these guys were. Because when they started Project Manus, which underpinned this, what they found at MIT, and I think is exactly the case here at QUT, and Steph will probably tell us, was the case at USQ as well. There's lots of bits. So there's labs, there's engineering workshops. In our next building, we've got an observatory on the roof. We've got all sorts of parts, but they're not connected. And they are for purpose. So if you're an engineering student and you have to make something in particular, then you probably will be in Launchpad over in O Block, I think it is, OM. So a patchwork of places. And that's what MIT found. Not only was there a patchwork, there were different requirements for entry. Who could access it? What training did they have to use similar tools if they existed across these spaces? And then, the whole when were the spaces open? So what they did was put in place a piece of technology called Mobius, which is literally about connecting the places. So as a makerspace, I would love a makerspace at QUT. I know exactly where I want it to be at QUT. I keep telling people and they go away. You can either have a space, and then you get asked, what do you want to put in it? It's like, how long's a piece of string? You can have a space, or you could connect all your spaces. So MIT went down the path of connecting all spaces. I think at QUT, if we are to do this at any scale, that is probably how we would have to do it as well. And there's a lot of background work that people have done around what tools we have, what spaces exist, what's in them, etc., etc. So part of our Make Impact Consortium relationship, we have students participating in challenges. So in June of last year, we had 6 students from across different faculties working online together. They never actually met each other. They never met any of the other teams except virtually. So they competed with teams from around the world. And the challenge was about opening during COVID. Our team came up with a money laundering system, literally to launder money, to clean it, completely legal. They won 3rd prize in that challenge. And this week we've got 6 teams of 4 who will start in a new challenge, which is with the Omni Hotel and Resort Group, again around opening and operating during COVID. So we'll see how they go. Our small attempt at QUT happened in 2019. We had a Maker Day on campus, and we took a focus on waste. These things are made out of old ties. That's a very nice orange tie. I might grab that from you later. So we took a focus on waste because there is so much value that can be created from waste if you think creatively about what can be done with it. And of course, we've got researchers who are doing an amazing work around how do you break it down, how do you reuse it, how do you repurpose it, what do you do with it. And so we had a day out on the lawn where we had researchers talking about research, we had practitioners showing us what they did. As part of building a circular economy, we had some of our professional staff in the area of sustainability and safety talking about what they did, and we had workshops to help people learn to do things. I think my standout experience was watching a couple of our IT students running a button making workshop. They were amazing. So unfortunately, we weren't able to do anything about this last year, but we'll come back with this concept of a maker day. I think the more that we can do to encourage people to use many of the skills that they actually have, and then think about the way in which that can be translated into entrepreneurial action would be exciting. So why do we do this at QUT? Why do we build this entrepreneurial community and focus on creativity and entrepreneurship? We do it because it's all about learning and it's about creating connections. We do it because it's all about building individuals' capability and capacity. We do it because we believe it gives people a choice as to how they want to build their career. So if you understand how to pursue opportunity, then you can look at a later point, perhaps in life, and say, this job's not doing it for me anymore. What else can I do? But we also think, because what we do sits predominantly outside the curriculum, we think that this is about amplifying what students are learning within their discipline. It's not about replacing, it's not about shifting, it's about amplifying what they do in their discipline. And we do it because it's a load of fun. And there's no better place to have a lot of fun than at university before you graduate and the serious hard stuff starts. Thank you.